Am I the antagonist for asking my sister-in-law if she has a degree in psychology? This past weekend, my sister-in-law Susie came over to visit my wife and me for dinner and drinks. Susie, who is 24 years old, had recently ended a 2-year relationship and seemed to only want to talk about her ex-boyfriend during her visit. Despite our attempts to change the subject, Susie kept steering the conversation back to her failed relationship. After about an hour of listening to Susie vent about her ex, I decided to leave the room and find something else to do. Soon after, my wife approached me, asking if we could start dinner earlier as she was hungry. We have a large island counter in our kitchen, where Susie and my wife sat drinking wine while I cooked. Once again, Susie continued to talk about her ex, using clinical and therapy terms like narcissist, gaslighting, toxic, and disregarding boundaries. I tried multiple times to change the topic, but nothing worked. I even tried playing music to drown out Susie's conversation, but it didn't stop her. Eventually, I suggested that they sit on the couch instead of the bar stools, but Susie insisted on watching me cook, even though she paid no attention to anything other than her wine or her ex-boyfriend. At one point, Susie described something her ex had done and asked me if it sounded like something a narcissist would do. I responded by saying that I couldn't tell, as I'm not a psychologist and have never really encountered a narcissist. Despite my deflections, she repeatedly pressed for my opinion. Frustrated, I asked her sharply, "Do you have a degree in psychology, Susie? Are you a therapist? Or are you just repeating terms you heard on TikTok? Either call your ex an asshole and move on or leave my kitchen for God's sake." My wife scolded me immediately, while Susie sat silently for a moment before calling me an asshole and storming off, followed by my wife. As I had to finish cooking, I couldn't go after them. Eventually, my wife returned alone and informed me that Susie had left in an Uber because she no longer felt welcome for dinner due to my outburst. I explained to my wife that I had tried politely redirecting the conversation and had even asked both of them to leave the room so I could cook. But Susie insisted on pushing me for my opinion on something I didn't care about. My wife suggested that I should have humored Susie since she's going through a breakup and needed a safe space to vent. I explained that there's a difference between venting and mindlessly using therapy terms, and Susie had crossed that line. I reassured my wife that I had tried removing myself from the conversation multiple times, but Susie kept insisting. Was I in the wrong here? You tried multiple times to change the subject and redirect the conversation, but Susie continuously brought it back to her ex-boyfriend. It's understandable that you eventually reached your breaking point and lashed out. Susie should have respected your boundaries and realized that you were not interested in discussing her ex-boyfriend in such depth. Your wife's suggestion to humor Susie because she's going through a breakup is valid, but it shouldn't excuse Susie from disregarding your discomfort and repeatedly pushing the conversation in a direction you clearly expressed disinterest in. Additionally, Susie withholding important information about her breakup further undermines her credibility and justifies your frustration. Overall, it seems like you and your wife have recognized the issue and addressed it, and it's understandable why you wouldn't want Susie over for dinner again in the near future. Am I the antagonist for letting one of my sisters live with me and not even letting the other one visit? My mom has been pressuring me, 37-year-old female, lately to have my younger sister Heidi, 16-year-old female, visit my wife and me. She says Heidi has been really pushing for it, especially because I live really close to New York City and she wants to see more of the art scene. I've been trying to politely avoid the subject and have just said that she's too young, but they won't let it go. Now they're throwing in my face that I didn't think my other sister Dawn was too young when I was taking her for summers, and she was almost a year younger when that started. I don't see it the same way. Yes, Dawn was almost a year younger when I was taking her for entire summers, but it was a completely different situation. For one, when she was 15, I was 19. When Heidi was born, I was 22. Dawn is and was my peer, not someone that could easily be my child. 2, the situation was completely different. I was taking her for entire summers because unlike Heidi, Dawn and I didn't really have parents. We had a stepdad who demanded that we be as invisible as possible, different guy, and a mom who was completely on board with that, which meant that the entire expectations around it were different. Also, as much as I don't want to act like 2004 was a different world, it kind of was, and there were specific subculture things that made it even more of a different situation. 3, maybe because of who we are, maybe because of the world and what was happening at home, but Dawn at 15 was so much more independent and self-possessed than Heidi is at 16. Dawn was running around the country with paper maps, a flip phone, and dreams with no issues. I saw Heidi stutter trying to order at McDonald's 2 months ago. Dawn didn't spend her life expecting me to hold her hand through so much as the mall while mommy and daddy called me every 2 hours to check in. We were peers who could still both live our lives and just hang out, and it didn't come with extra intrusions. So yeah, I was a lot more okay with having Dawn with me for summers when I was in college, and now don't even want Heidi coming to visit me alone for even a week. I'd like it to be different, but it's just not the same thing. Now my mom is mad at me for treating my sisters differently. She's crying that I don't love Heidi the same as Dawn, that I'm not giving them equal opportunities and punishing her for not being born earlier. I don't think I'm in the wrong here. I think that the time has just passed, and unfortunately, we are just going to have a different relationship. No, you would not be the asshole if you found someone else to watch your daughter. It is clear that you and your husband have set boundaries and expectations regarding your child's care, and the people around you are not respecting those boundaries. It is important for your child's well-being and your peace of mind to have someone who will follow your wishes when you are not there. It is ultimately your responsibility as parents to make sure your child is safe and cared for in the way you see fit. Am I the antagonist for not letting my husband shower when he wants? I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids aged 1 and 3. I only work 1 or 2 days a week, so most of the time I'm at home with them. My husband works in construction and has long, physically demanding days. He wakes up at 5 a.m. and gets home around 6:30 p.m. My schedule is usually similar, give or take an hour. Every day when my husband gets home, he immediately wants to go to the bathroom and take a shower. The problem is he spends at least 25 minutes on the toilet and 25 minutes in the shower. This makes it difficult for me to start dinner as the kids constantly cling to me, crying and screaming. I've started asking him to wait until they go to bed because I only have a 2-hour window to prepare dinner, eat, clean up, get the kids ready for bed, give them baths, and so on. At first he complied, but now he's telling me it's unfair to ask him to wait in sweaty clothes for 2 hours until the kids are in bed. I understand it's uncomfortable, but I've been alone with the kids for 13 hours straight every day. I also have things that need to be done. On top of that, my kids are going through a difficult tantrum phase. Today, he got upset with me and called me selfish when I asked him to wait. I told him I felt he was being selfish by spending almost an hour in the bathroom and shower when he knows I have tasks to complete. So who is in the wrong here? Am I the one at fault or is it him? It seems like you're trying your best to manage your responsibilities as a stay-at-home mom and take care of your kids while also ensuring that dinner is cooked and everything is ready for bedtime. Asking your husband to delay his shower for 30 minutes doesn't seem like an unreasonable request, considering the limited time you have to get everything done. While it's understandable that your husband wants to freshen up after a long day at work, it's important for him to also consider your needs and the challenges you face taking care of the kids all day. It's not fair for him to dismiss your concerns and call you selfish. Communication is key in resolving this conflict. It might be helpful to have a calm conversation with your husband and explain how his actions are impacting your ability to manage your responsibilities. Perhaps you can come up with a compromise that works for both of you, such as finding alternative ways for him to decompress temporarily while you handle the kids during that time. Am I the antagonist for refusing to punish my sons when I know they did something? I recently went on a business trip, leaving my 17-year-old twins home alone for 2 nights. This was the first time they had been left home alone overnight. They will turn 18 in January. Upon my return, I was surprised to find that the house was actually cleaner than when I had left, and we had a new toaster. It was clear that something had happened while I was away. Since it was my birthday, my brother came over and we had a meal together. I noticed the new toaster and called the boys into the kitchen. Although I don't remember my exact words, I basically said that we all knew something had occurred, and regardless of what happened, they had clearly tried to fix it. I warned them that if anyone besides themselves informed me of any incidents involving the police or the hospital, there would be consequences. I also told them that if they wanted to tell me what happened, they had the opportunity to do so. My brother asked about the situation, so I explained that the house was suspiciously clean and we had a new toaster. I'm still unsure of what they actually did. After a more thorough inspection, I couldn't find the old toaster. Nothing was missing from the first aid supplies and nothing else seemed out of place. The limited alcohol we had was still there. Neither of the boys has hinted at what happened, and I haven't pushed for further details. They clearly did something and then took the initiative to fix it. In a few months, they will be adults, and while I would like to know, I'm not sure if it's justified to punish them for not confessing. They used their own money to buy a new toaster after whatever they did to the old one, and they cleaned the house after their escapade. My brother believes that I am in the wrong for, as he puts it, letting them off the hook. As adults, they will need to handle their own problems, which is exactly what they have done in this situation, so I believe letting it go is acceptable. The boys are aware that I know something happened, so they haven't completely fooled me. However, whatever took place during those few days has been resolved by the individuals involved, so I believe the problem is solved and we can all move on. My brother has spoken to his wife and our parents, and everyone believes I am wrong for not punishing the boys for keeping their actions a secret. I have spoken to them again, and told them that if anything was broken and they attempted to fix it instead of replacing it, they should inform me so that I can ensure it was fixed safely. However, they insist that the only thing that needed to be addressed was the toaster. I still consider the issue resolved, but it seems that I am the only one who feels this way. Am I in the wrong for not punishing the twins for not revealing what happened, especially since they took steps to fix it? You are not the asshole. It's commendable that your twins took responsibility for whatever happened and tried to fix it themselves. Punishing them for refusing to disclose the details would be unnecessary and possibly counterproductive. They are soon going to be adults, and it's important to encourage them to solve their own problems. As long as nothing is broken or unsafe in the house, it seems like the issue has been resolved. Your brother and others may have a different opinion, but ultimately, it's your decision as their parent to handle the situation. Am I the antagonist for yelling at my friend to stop being weird and to act normal? I am a 19-year-old male, and I have a friend named Alex, a 20-year-old female, whom I have known for a few years. Although we are not extremely close, we usually sit next to each other in most of our classes. It didn't take long for me to realize that Alex craves attention. Every week she comes up with something new, coming out as a different gender/sexuality, only to take it back later, claiming to have a new disorder/condition, exaggerating minor injuries, like a small burn or cut, or proclaiming to have a new stalker enemy, and so on. I happen to know her parents, and they are not very nice people. Due to this, I have chosen to ignore her behavior and sometimes even appease her to make her feel better. However, looking back now, I regret doing that. Recently, Alex has claimed to have Tourette's syndrome. This immediately angered me because I actually have a friend who genuinely suffers from Tourette's. It is not something fun or quirky. It can be humiliating and debilitating. When Alex told me about her diagnosis, I frankly told her that she couldn't have it at this stage in life. Tourette's is typically diagnosed in early childhood. She insisted that she had it, but I didn't want to argue with her in case I was wrong. Since then, she has started randomly twitching and making noises out of nowhere. This is the first time she has shown symptoms of Tourette's since I have known her since 2019. It has reached a point where I can no longer sit next to her. She's driving me crazy and I can't concentrate on my work. She constantly bumps into me, makes noises, and seeks validation with statements like, "I know it's annoying. Sorry for bothering you." Initially, I thought calling her out once and ignoring her would make her quit after a week. However, it has been almost a month now and I am extremely frustrated with her behavior. Yesterday, I was working on a project blueprint with my group, and Alex was in my group since she sits next to me. However, her stuttering and noises made it impossible for me to have a conversation. Additionally, she kept bumping into me while I was trying to draw. I tried asking her to calm down, and I even suggested moving seats. She repeatedly promised to try to stop. This is where I may have acted poorly. After enduring another 10 minutes of this, I yelled at her, telling her to stop acting strangely and just be normal for the rest of the class. I didn't intend to yell, but it slipped out due to my frustration with her fabricated drama, which was now interfering with my work. She became upset, and while she miraculously stopped twitching and making noises, she started crying and left school early. I sent her a text, apologizing for shouting but also expressing my own feelings about her behavior. However, she blocked me and didn't come to school today. Opinions among people are divided. While many believe that I have a right to feel angry, they also think that yelling was excessive. Some argue that I shouldn't assume that Alex doesn't have Tourette's and that I am being discriminatory. Others argue that my frustrations are justified, but because Alex is somewhat unpopular, there is an underlying bias against her. I am honestly unsure. I don't think I should have raised my voice, but pretending to have a condition for attention is deceitful. So, am I the one at fault here? Your parents are being judgmental and disrespectful towards your fiancé and her parents solely based on her name. It is not their place to dictate who you should marry, and their comments are hurtful and inappropriate. You have every right to defend your fiancé and set boundaries with your parents. It is understandable that you walked away and blocked them after their comments. Stand up for your relationship, and don't let their narrow-mindedness affect you. Would I be the antagonist if I stopped letting my mother-in-law watch my child because of her mom? I have a 6-month-old daughter. My husband and I both work long hours and are currently staying with his mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother. Thankfully, my mother-in-law and I have a great relationship. She respects my wishes and expresses her opinions about my child in a considerate manner. However, my husband's grandmother is the complete opposite. We had a thorough discussion before our baby was born about expectations and boundaries regarding our child. We made it clear that if our wishes weren't respected, contact with her would be limited. Unfortunately, not everyone seems to understand or remember our agreement. It all started when my husband's grandmother criticized my nursery ideas, referring to them as stupid. I had chosen a gender-neutral Monsters, Inc. theme, which I thought was adorable. She disagreed, saying it would make my child into something she's not supposed to be. Then, during my baby shower, I overheard my mother-in-law and husband's grandmother loudly mocking my chosen theme. They claimed that I was making it more about myself rather than the baby, and insisted that the theme itself was dumb. This hurt me deeply, and I retreated to the bathroom where I ended up crying and texting my husband. He confronted them after returning home. Every visit to the pediatrician with our daughter has turned into an argument between my husband's grandmother and me. She feels superior, dismissing the doctors as incompetent and even doubting if they have children of their own. It's exhausting to keep disputing with her, but I feel compelled to do so in order to uphold the importance of our boundaries. During our latest appointment for our daughter's 6-month wellness check, we discussed strategies for improving her sleep. It's been a struggle, as she only falls asleep if she's with me in bed, and then she screams if I transfer her to her crib. I am personally not a fan of co-sleeping, but but I have been sacrificing my own sleep to keep her calm and comfortable. To my dismay, I found out that she also naps in bed with her great-grandmother when I'm at work. Our pediatrician advised against co-sleeping, and when we informed my mother-in-law and great-grandmother about this decision, great-grandma reacted strongly. She claimed that we couldn't dictate her parenting when we're not around, emphasizing that she has her own routine with me and another with them. She used the example of not telling daycare providers how to care for our child, arguing that they should be afforded the same respect. This incident made me furious. I told my husband that if this is how it's going to be, I will arrange for my mother to watch our baby when we're not home. I do not want to leave my daughter in an environment where my wishes and boundaries are disregarded. So if I followed through with finding alternative care for my daughter, would I be the one in the wrong? No, you would not be the asshole, not the antagonist, if you found someone else to watch your daughter. It is clear that you and your husband have set boundaries and expectations regarding your child's care, and the people around you are not respecting those boundaries. It is important for your child's well-being and your peace of mind to have someone who will follow your wishes when you are not there. It is ultimately your responsibility as parents to make sure your child is safe and cared for in the way you see fit. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.